Morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm DeVito, Kuchenbuch. I am a member of the Floyd County Board of Supervisors, and I also serve on the Board of Directors of the Virginia Association of Counties, and I will be moderating this morning's session on closing the digital divide. I am pleased to introduce our speaker, Dr. Tamara Holmes, who brings a wealth of knowledge, expertise, and experiences as it relates to bringing the Commonwealth online for reliable and affordable internet connections. Delegate Cliff Hayes was scheduled to join us today for our discussion, but unfortunately could not attend, and he sends his regrets. Dr. Holmes is the director of the Office of Broadband at the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, fondly known in our world as DHCD, and has been in the role since September of 2019. She has spent 20 years in the public sector in the field of community and economic development in New York, New Jersey, and Chesterfield, Virginia. Dr. Holmes has played an instrumental role in the creation of the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative, also known to many of us as VDHCD, having served as the lead in the development of the program that has grown from a $1 million to a $750 million appropriation since 2017. Under her leadership, Virginia was successful in securing $1.4 billion in federal funding through the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Program, now fondly known as BEAD. And she will be speaking on BEAD to us today. Without further ado, Dr. Holmes, please join us, because I know that there are plenty of folks that have lots of questions. And we'll be doing our Q&A after Dr. Holmes' presentation. Thank you.
The clicker's up on the podium.
It's already there.
Yeah.
You left it there.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Morning.
So I see a lot of familiar faces. I also see faces I don't know, so I want to definitely make sure I get to meet everyone and know your names at the end of the presentation. And so this morning I'm going to talk about closing the digital divide in Virginia. And so as stated, I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the Office of Broadband. I actually wear two hats for the Commonwealth at the Department of Housing and Community Development. I'm the broadband director, but I'm also the Virginia Appalachian Regional Commission Program Manager as well. And so I do two different programs. And so to really share about the digital divide, we got to look at it in multiple facets. And so in Virginia, we primarily participated and worked around addressing access. However, you can't just build broadband and assume people will connect to it without talking about adoption. And I know that several leaders in this room are currently having body projects built throughout their community. And so many of our communities, while still needing access, are also on the cusp of making sure residents know how to navigate the internet, but also navigate it in a safe way. And so that's when we talk about adoption. And then the last piece is really affordability. And so a lot of times when we talk about affordability, folks want to talk about the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is a federal subsidy that offered $30 a month. However, we often miss that in Virginia, because the General Assembly and now 3 governors have invested in broadband deployment, we've not only made it accessible, but we've also made it affordable. Because what we know is that if providers were to build on their own dime without government support, it would be a lot more expensive in those communities as well. And so in Virginia, we do touch on all 3 circles, but we primarily focused on access, which many of you have projects in your communities. And so I want to really give an update about how broadband deployment across the state is going. Not many folks get to see this information. And so I want to really talk about some accomplishments we've had over the last several years as it relates to the Virginia Telecommunication Initiative program. And so this is a map of all the body investments that have taken place from 2021 to 2024. The reason we chose 2021, does anyone know what happened in 2021 with our budget? Mm-hmm. One hand. $750 million went into broadband. I knew Steve knew that answer. And so what you see here are the investments that were made across the state. And so there is a color code. And so the Pro Awards are the awards that were just made in 2024. And so the rest of the awards were awards made between December 21 and August of 24. And so what you see, the white areas don't necessarily mean that they don't have broadband. The white areas may mean that there might be a federal grant there. So if you look at the bottom corner here, you'll see Scott County. Well, Scott County has not had a body grant because Scott County is actually the home of Scott County Telephone Cooperative. And so Scott County Telephone Cooperative, through a lot of USDA funding, have actually built out a good portion of Scott County. There are some parts of Scott County that still need broadband. And so I'll talk about BEAD in a little bit. And so I wanted to share about how projects are going. And so again, this is not information we typically share. If you look on the body dashboard, you'll see how counties are doing individually. But if you look at how we're doing across the board, again, focusing on 2021 through 2024, combined, we've built out between the blue bars combined together over 133,000 locations currently have broadband that did not have it in December 21 combined. And then, of course, we've got several projects that are under construction. And so what these charts reflect are about $977 million invested in broadband across the state since 2017. And what you see is currently under construction between 2021 and 2024. The reason you don't see any progress in 2024 is because those awards were just announced earlier this year. And so if you compare the Commonwealth to other states, and we typically do this, especially in economic development, we talk about our neighboring states. And so if you look at how Virginia has been built out over the last several years, we are building 5 times faster than any other state when it comes to broadband deployment. And I know we have some folks from All Points Broadband in here, and I'm pretty sure they can attest to what's going on in other states as well with their counterparts. And I know Matt is here from Verizon. And so we are still way ahead of other states despite what the news you hear about BEAD, and I'll talk a little bit about BEAD in a couple of slides. And so what you see here on this slide is how projects are progressing. And so earlier you saw me share the original map of where investments are being made. What you see here is how projects are being built to date. And so the colors that are reflected, if you can see them, the darker green are the projects are at 66% or more complete at this point. 33 to 66% is like the light green, and then the light blue is between 1% and 33% of the project is completed. And then you see the blue, those projects are currently getting underway. They may be going through what we call make ready or getting permits from VDOT to build out. And so this is how projects are progressing across the state as well. And so I wanted to do a spotlight of some projects across the state. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of counties. And I did not pick Floyd County because Ms. Linda's here from Floyd. But I did want to share some great wins I think a lot of counties have had. So anyone here from King and Queen County? Anyone? Nope. Well, King and Queen County is the first large county to have fiber coverage throughout the county. City of Chesapeake, they had a partnership with Cox Communications, and they're the very first American Rescue Plan project to close out. Stafford County, anyone here from Stafford County? No? Where are these people at? They actually exceeded their contract passings. They contracted to build out to 634 passings. How we define passings are homes, businesses, and community anchors. They actually closed with exceeding that number of targeted locations within their county. And then Floyd County is the first county in Southwest Virginia to have fiber coverage throughout the county. And so there's always a running battle between King and Queen County, Surrey County, and Floyd County because they all were building at rapid pace. And so I figured I'd go landmass, Southwest Virginia, and then Surrey County being the smaller of the one in the middle of the three. But Floyd County is the first one in Southwest Virginia. And I actually got a chance to go down and celebrate their fiber build out. I will tell you, Floyd County knows how to party, y'all, and celebrate. And so congratulations to Floyd County for being the first one in Southwest Virginia to have fiber throughout their entire county. And then the Chalmers Jefferson Planning District Commission, who partners with Firefly, they are building out 13 counties, and they're contracted to do 36,225,000 passings. They're on track to build out those passings, and they're currently at 14,617. And so they are steadily progressing across the state. And so I wanted to give a screenshot. Does anyone know that we have a dashboard that displays how individual projects are being built out across the state? Not many people. I show hands, people. See, the people that I know. And so I wanted to share a screenshot of the Eastern Shore of Virginia body project. They received the grant in December 21. And so what you see on here, this is a publicly facing dashboard that was actually mandated by the General Assembly when we received the plus up in August of 21. And so what you see here is that they actually have exceeded the number of fiber miles they proposed to build with the grant. We did not pay for those extra fiber miles. They paid for them on their own dime. And so what you also see is that they've completed construction of all the locations, and then they're about, I think it says 97% of the contract has expired. And so every single project that's awarded through VDHCD starting in 21 appears on this dashboard. And so not only can you, but all your residents can also see how projects are progressing throughout the duration of the project. And the other tool we have in our toolkit is where is broadband in Virginia? And so we have this great map built by the Center for Geospatial Information Technology at Virginia Tech. It's called the Commonwealth Connection Map. And so in this map, you can actually look at your individual address. You can look at your entire city or county. You can look at Senate districts, House districts, or even school districts. And the reason this is important is because we're actually able to provide location-based data. So if you were to type your address in the box, you can actually see where, if you have broadband or not, which you all should know if you have broadband or not at your home. But you can also look at your community to see where coverage is and where coverage is not. The other thing that's also really cool about this map is you can actually do a speed test from your computer to see how your broadband is working in your home. You can also look at by assets and programs. And so what that does, if I was to drop that down, and maybe we'll do a demonstration before I end, if we have Wi-Fi in here. And so you can also look at VDHCD projects. And so the map could, you pull up your county, you can drop down assets and programs, and you click on VDHCD, and you'll see where the VDHCD projects are within your specific community. So you can identify where coverage is currently being built out and where coverage is still lacking. So what's ahead with BEAD? And so BEAD is a $42.45 billion program at the federal level that was passed under the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act back in November of 21. And so what the BEAD program is focused on first is deployment, making sure that the moniker is under the umbrella. It's called Internet for All. And so this $42.45 billion is actually going to every state and territory across the United States. And so the goal is to first build out broadband to every location that currently lacks it based on federal mapping. And I know I'm going to preach to the choir, flawed federal mapping. And so we have to determine a point in time in which we will determine the location is unserved. And so the way it works is that if anyone remembers VDHCD is a unit of local government, whether it's a county or a broadband authority or IDA, coming in partnership with a private sector partner. That is VDHCD. However, BEAD is an internet service provider coming in directly to the Department of Housing and Community Development as the applicant without a locality. However, the role of the locality for BEAD is you all as county leaders and your board of supervisors can support a application by your internet provider by offering them or giving them a letter of support for their application for BEAD. And so that's the difference between the two programs. And so for BEAD for us, before we can actually open our application process, we have to do something where we finalize what is called challenge results. And they must be certified by the federal government through NTIA, that is the federal agency under the Department of Commerce that oversees the program. And so right now, we anticipate 135,000 locations are BEAD eligible across the state. There's only one locality in the entire Commonwealth that does not have a BEAD location, and it is the city of Norton in Southwest Virginia. Not sure what happened in the city of Norton, but bless them, they don't have any BEAD locations, which means that they have good internet coverage. There are a handful of counties and cities that don't have a VDHCD project that will appear on BEAD, and I'll show that map shortly. And then there are locations in and around existing VDHCD projects, and so often a lot of county administrators, when they start seeing the next map, their head starts to explode because they're like, well, wait a minute, we come in for grants every single year. What do you mean? We still have locations that are unserved. And so then there's also scattered locations in urban areas. So you start seeing locations in the city of Richmond. You start seeing locations in what we thought were communities that had full coverage. And then there's also something called line extensions where, I know I'm preaching to the choir, if your house is a significant distance off the road, you have to pay additional dollars to get the service to your front door. Citizens Telephone Cooperative in Southwest Virginia, which is the home of Floyd County, they are gangbusters in the line extension program. I don't know what happened in Floyd, but Floyd must have I don't think you have the longest distance I've seen off the road for a house, but the longest I've seen is 5 miles, but you have many homes. And so they've done a great job with connecting families that live a mile or half a mile off the road to broadband. And so this is the BEAD map. And so, as I said earlier, most county administrators look at this and they go, wait a minute, why there's so many dots in my county? Part of it is that the pace in which the BEAD program started. While Congress passed the program in November of 21, NTIA, the federal agency, did not really get the program up and running until 2023. And so, if anyone knows what happened at the federal level, the Federal Communications had to issue a map, a new broadband coverage map for the first time around locations. And so we know that initially the data was flawed. The Commonwealth actually received an additional, what we think is $250 million because we challenged the federal maps. There were 2 ways we challenged. One was we have the state geographic network database, so it's the E911 address layer. And so the federal government put out the layer of the map, and so we realized that there were thousands of addresses that were missing just on the base of the map, and so we challenged that. And then the second thing we all did, including residents in your communities, also type their addresses into the map, and let's say you know your home doesn't have broadband, but it says that it does have broadband, you could submit a challenge to the FCC, and they would go back to the provider and state that they would remove that address. And so I like to say that this is a moving target, and so a point in time starting this past, we're still in 2024, April, I was going to say last April. In April, this is our point in time count of what was unserved at that point after we finished the challenge process. And so, again, there will be lots of conversations moving forward with county leaders on how we address locations that still appear on this map as eligible for BEAD, but actually already have services. So the federal government is working through that process now to determine how we will address that. And so please don't have a heart attack. And if you notice your county has a lot of dots, we will account for those in some form or fashion. This is not a unique problem to the Commonwealth. This is happening all across the country. And so to give you an update on BEAD, we anticipate opening our full application before the end of the year, all depending on the approval of the federal government. And so the goal is to have awards announced for every single location in late spring 2025. So we're thinking about May. That Governor would make recommendation of awards to NTIA. And so then we have to take everything and ship them to DC. And so the projects have to clear federal hurdles and get approval of the federal government. And so we anticipate that would be done by early 2026. And so the projects will get under contract at that point. And so, remember I said that BEAD has 2 focuses. One is deployment. The other focus is BEAD non-deployment. And so, we're going to receive $1.48 billion because we've made early investments in building broadband throughout the state. We don't necessarily need $1.48 billion to build out broadband to those 135,000 plus or minus locations. I don't think we can actually make them go up, but they'll definitely go down. And so the goal is to focus the additional funds, which we anticipate will be about $400 million, focused on broadband adoption and digital literacy programs across the state. And so one way in which we're already starting to look at this and how we're going to roll this out is meeting with state agencies to develop innovative programs to invest in non-deployment uses that focus on adoption and affordability. And so some of those conversations are focused on telehealth, telemedicine, Department of Education, things around cybersecurity for seniors. And so we're in conversations with several state agencies. And so we hope before the end of the year we'd be able to finalize who the agencies are that we would partner with as part of that funding. We haven't quite figured out how much of the funding would go to that initiative yet, because we're still reviewing the proposals from state agencies, and then other initiatives. And so 400 million is not going to state agencies, everyone. The goal is also to look for local programs that are investing in doing things. You all may have folks that are doing intergenerational digital literacy classes. You may have libraries that are doing work in your communities around digital literacy. Some communities have device refurbishment and distribution programs, and so also investing in localized community efforts as well. To not only, remember, bring broadband to everyone, which is our primary focus, but to also make sure that folks adopt it and utilize it in a safe manner. And so BEAD non-deployment, this just is a synopsis of what potential eligible uses are. These are the uses that are in the federal law around those uses. And so you see things like digital navigators, digital literacy, you see things around broadband sign-up assistance and tech support programs. And so those are the eligible uses of BEAD non-deployment. We are one of the few states that will be able to have funds to implement these types of programs across the state. And so that's something I think that's really important, because not many other states will have that opportunity. And so we will bring broadband to everyone, but we will also work through partners and fellow state agencies and community organizations to educate residents how to use the internet in a safe manner. I know when I went to NACO, I guess it was about a year ago, the question that came up on a panel was particularly about seniors and cybersecurity and making sure that our seniors aren't taken advantage of. And so I know that's something that everyone's thinking about, and so one of the ways we talked about is the Senior Office of Aging in communities throughout the state. They do a great job of educating seniors. I know during COVID, I heard a lot about seniors not having devices to do telehealth and telemedicine. They said the young people got Chromebooks, they didn't have devices, and so the cell phone is not a replacement for the internet. I know I'm looking at Matt Ogburn because he works for Verizon, so sorry, Matt. But it is a tool. And sometimes it's the only device that someone may have. And so being able to help around device distribution and needs around that is important. And so digital opportunity initiatives. And so digital opportunity is really around, it's under the federal government. The program is called Digital Equity, and so in Virginia we use the word opportunity. And so we have some opportunities currently right now where we are offering planning grants to every single county and tribal government and city government across the state, both state and federally recognized tribes, for $25,000 per county. Did anyone here from the county know about this program? So a few. Have you guys applied for the program?
Yes.
Okay, you'll see that because I'm going to show you a map. It's really science already. And so every single county and city, we set aside $3.2 million so that every county or city could come in. And so what you see here, and it's really, really tiny, are the counties that have actually come in for a grant are green. We have the ones that are pending are in orange. So you see Franklin County over there, Steve. I don't want to hear from you. Steve is on the Broadband and Rising Council, which is like he's been on a lot, and Jimmy too. And so the ones that we're currently in conversation with those counties about coming in for the program. We actually just relaxed the rules because we started hearing from really local nonprofits from a lot of counties that said $25,000 may not convince my county to come to the table. And so what you also see here is some regional projects that have come in. And so we've seen that happen in the New River Valley. Floyd actually started that conversation with the PDC. And so New River Valley has come in as a region. Cumberland Plateau, which is in blue, they've come in as a region. And so, and then I know Albemarle County has come in with their surrounding communities as well as a regional effort. And so what we're seeing take place more are regional efforts around developing a regional adoption plan. And so what these plans are focused on, again, if we build it, does not mean folks will take it. And so we need to identify what resources around digital literacy programming are in your communities. We also need to find out if someone's doing, I mean, you'd be surprised at the innovation. I know you guys live in the communities of folks. I mean, we wouldn't have internet in a lot of rural communities if there wasn't someone that went to Virginia Tech who came home and couldn't get the internet and developed their own fixed wireless network and then started giving it to their neighbors. And so the goal around this funding is to really look at how do we encourage adoption and educate communities around literacy, find out gaps around literacy. One of the things we found out in our statewide, when we were developing the statewide plan around the opportunity, was that a lot of residents, things that came up, well, we don't have it, so we knew that was a problem. But one thing that came up was folks weren't confident with accessing like telehealth and telemedicine appointments. And so being able to gain that confidence, or folks might make an assumption that they know how to use the internet and they do an assessment with a local nonprofit and that they actually really struggle with actually navigating the internet. And so this funding is a way to help communities identify those gaps, not the access piece anymore because we all know where that is, but to really focus on gaps around knowledge around using the internet. And so we have, there's another resource that we're also getting from the federal government called the State Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program. And so we call it the Digital Skills, Literacy, and Distribution, made up an acronym, as we always do in government, DSW sub-grant program. And so we anticipate that this grant program will open in January 2025. We are going to sub-grant $14.5 billion of this funding to go to eligible entities, which include nonprofit organizations, county governments, faith-based organizations. And so the goal is to focus on the 4 circles: organizations and programs that do digital skills and literacy programs, digital navigation and tech support, device refurbishment and distribution programs, and then targeted efforts for covered populations. And so covered populations is a requirement of this funding from the federal government. And so by covered populations, these are folks that live in rural communities, folks that might be a member of a racial or ethnic minority, folks that might be seniors. And so about 81.1% of Virginians check one or more of those boxes. And so this funding has to be targeted to specific populations. And so again, this is going to open in January 2025 pending approval of our plan. And so the other thing we're working on is developing a statewide digital opportunity resource hub. And so if you all remember, during COVID, we put out a public Wi-Fi map, and so someone could type in their address and they'd be able to find out where public Wi-Fi. It's very similar where someone can type in their community and they would have a list of all resources within their county that maybe give out devices or may provide digital literacy classes. Because the libraries are doing phenomenal work around digital literacy, just really innovatively. And so, but there are also other organizations doing it as well. And so we want to make sure folks know about that as well. And so the other thing we're doing is developing a digital opportunity awareness initiative where we're going to develop a toolkit for communities. You know how you have like a national night out event in your county? You can do a digital night out in your county. And so we're developing a toolkit around that for communities to be able to sponsor and host events and also seek grant funding to do that. This is probably the one grant program I've ever seen where they allow you to buy incentives to convince folks to come to different events where there's a gift card or whether it's food. And so this is one of the few programs where they really understand the population that sometimes you have to have childcare at an event or you've got to, sometimes provide transportation. And so this program is a lot more flexible than I've seen with other federal programs because they understand the populations that they're trying to target. And then that concludes my official presentation. Is there Wi-Fi in here, John?
I think so. If you want to, try it. There should be.
Let's see if I can put up the combo connection in there. Sorry, I'm sharing whatever's on your computer. Is there Chrome on here? Should I just use Edge?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a government employee. We can only use Chrome. Okay.
You're safe in here.
I can't spell connection. I can't spell that either. Oh, see, I don't use Edge. All right, so does someone want to give me their home address? Well, you have an internet. Does anyone know of an address in their community that does not have internet? See, if Chris McCartney was here, he'd give me an address, guys. He's Okay, I'll just pull up a county. Anyone want me to pull up a county?
Pull up Augusta.
Okay, I'll do Augusta and Campbell. All right, so type in Augusta over here.
And Carol, too, if you have a chance.
Okay, I was close. Why am I looking that way when I need to do it this way? Okay.
There's Augusta.
Augusta. All right, so it's Talbot.
He's thinking.
All right, so according to federal mapping data, Augusta County has 74% of their addresses served. This is actually the map of Augusta County that should be coming up.
It's a little slow.
Oops. So I'm gonna reset it if I do that when you try it again. I probably should not be the person demonstrating this map. Alright. Okay, so try to move that over without deleting the county. Deleting the county. Alright, so let me see if I put it in my. Alright, so I know Augusta County is part of a body project from 2021. Sorry, I'm not sure I was not sure this county. Someone said Campbell, right?
Yes.
I want to see Campbell. Because it's blocking the map. It says 98% of Campbell has propane. Well, we know that's not correct. And so again, this is the federal data that we're using for that in Virginia, and that's why it's important for folks to pay attention to the federal map so communities can challenge. And so I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to get the,
Yeah, every time you X out, it takes.
yeah, it
the
takes me
county
away.
away.
I don't know why it's doing that. I may have to call Virginia Tech to figure out what's going on with the map. Let's see if I can click on broadband coverage.
Yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah, I still can't see it. So let's.
Just click on the map.
You know what? That might do it. Nope. It's giving me something about.
Click on the whole app, or even show the camera, yeah, right up in the corner. There you go. Get on it, get the whole person on, there you go now.
Yeah, it just takes the whole
Yeah,
time.
that takes away.
I'll have to figure out, and I'm probably not the best person to test this out with y'all. But this is the map that's available for you to go in, put your county in. You can put in addresses in your county. And so it's a great tool. It's a great tool done by Virginia Tech. I will figure out what's going on with it. It could be user error because I'm really bad at anything that involves mapping. And so I think the other great thing as well is to do a speed test. You can actually do a speed test on the site and it'll show you what your results are as well. I will tell you, your internet service provider will tell you you probably should not be on your Wi-Fi when you do it. You probably should want to be connected to your router because that'll demonstrate how much speed you actually have. And that's it. Yes, Jimmy, you had a question? Oh, well, I'm not supposed to moderate the questions. But
That's okay.
Yes,
You
Jimmy.
can come and sit down if you want.
Yes.
Tamara, has DHCD, since the election, had gotten any further guidance from NTIA about whether the BEAD Volume 2 is submitted, might be approved, if the change administrations might implicate changes to BEAD requirements or process?
I have not. We're just still proceeding on as a normal course of business, and whatever happens in DC, they'll figure that out at some point. Because I will say the one thing, and we probably said this previously, is that a lot of folks were concerned about the money, like because we're not effectively running the grant yet. And so, in their infinite wisdom, when we did submit our application for the funding under Volume 1 and Volume 2, we did request our full allocation, and so it's literally swiped in our Virginia Treasury account, so the money, and so we have access to some of that funding until we actually run our round for the plan. So I think that was some of the concerns about if there was a change in administration in DC, which we all, as civil servants, think about that impact on our communities, and so they did tell all the states and territories to, when they submit their budget request, to request all the funding. So at least we know that wasn't a concern.
Could you pull up Patrick County on there?
Wow, I know what Patrick County looks like already.
Yeah, me too.
As Patrick County actually has a couple of grants. They have an ARC broadband grant, and they have a body grant. And again, this might be user error with me, so. And so 47% of addresses are claimed to be served by internet service provider. I say claimed to be served because again, the data may be skewed.
What can we do to be like Floyd County right above it.
Well, and you saw the map earlier, the BEAD map, which if I go back to that, you'll see Patrick County's on there and their locations. And so, we can actually share with you how many BEAD locations are in Patrick County that would be eligible for providers to bid on versus your body grant, because you'll have a body grant that's currently being built out. You also have a small ARC grant that's being built out, and so then the remainder of the county will be under BEAD.
So, yeah.
In Lancaster, we operate undivided, but we got a lot of people that's been left there. And if I understand this right, they probably won't be picked up until sometime in late 2026.
So when I say 2026, that's when we think the projects would be under contract. And so most of the current body projects are either wrapping up or slowly wrapping up next year, or will be wrapping up in mid-2026. The deadline for the ARPA funding, which Lancaster is a part of, I think, an ARPA project, they have to be spent and completed by December 26th. And so the goal would be, as the providers, it's most often that we think the body ISP will come in for BEAD as well. Of course, will they be the most competitive? We don't know that. And so the goal would be for those projects to start in 2026. The part of the problem with the new funding is it's all dependent on the federal government. And so for us, if Governor Youngkin makes recommendations May of next year, we would send those applications and have a decision, we hope, by November of 25. The reason you see 26 is because there's federal rules. They have to do environmental reviews. They have to do baby Davis Bake. And so there's a lot of things that have to get in place. They have to finalize engineering. And so because a lot of counties that are on that BEAD map, the locations are in the middle of body areas or on the outskirts of the town that may be currently covered by a cable company. And so I feel like we're in a good space. The question will be, is every single state and territory is also moving at the same schedule, unlike body, where we just have to gate. And so the question will be, will our providers that are currently here, whether it's Verizon, Shentel, Allpoints, will they be able to keep the crews in Virginia who are currently building out body, or will they lose them to neighboring states or states across the country who are also going to be building BEAD? Right now, I think Louisiana's ahead of us, Montana's ahead of us, Delaware's ahead of everyone. They have like 500 locations that are eligible for BEAD. And so I think, personally, in my opinion, and this is the opinion of Dr. Tamara Holmes, not the opinion of the Commonwealth of Virginia, I think that we're going to be in a good position with BEAD because we have body projects that are going to continuously be building out in 26. And so Patrick, I think, is one of those counties. I think their time frame is through 26. And so that the goal would be to get BEAD started as the body projects are wrapping up. Now, there are going to be some counties that they may wrap up in 25, and so there will be a lag. And so it's going to be hard to keep the momentum we're seeing now as the providers are building out quicker here. And so we'll see what happens, and we're paying close attention to it. We do evaluate things in BEAD that talks about capacity of the company, how you addressing supply chain, constraints. And the other thing too, it's the Build America, Buy America requirement. So if there's an ISP that's building out body and they've got fiber in a warehouse, they may not be able to use that fiber to build out BEAD. And so some of them are going to start from scratch. And so we're actually doing a workshop, I think it's December 3rd and 4th, with internet service providers to talk about BEAD so that we can keep the momentum going. And so I hope Lancaster is one of those counties that can continue the momentum. I don't know the details of your specific project and when it is going to potentially wrap up. But I hope that we'll continue to keep the momentum going like we did with body.
No APB is, they on the last part of the day to wrapping up. But customers hear a lot from, they know APB has been like within a quarter mile of where they live. They can see it, but they can't. They're not included in that area. And giving them some kind of date, and most of them not going to be happy if you say, well, you might not get it to 2026.
What we can do is you can reach out to the office. My email is on the slides, and it'll be on the slides that they will share. Email us, and we can pull up a map of Lancaster so you can see where the homes are that will be in the BEAD program. And so maybe that'll be able to help you all identify ways to communicate. I know folks will be happy. We have projects in communities in this room where there's a federal award right across the street from a body project, and the federal war hasn't even started yet, and the body project is already done. So you've got neighbor against neighbor going, well, why can't they just come across the road? They're not gonna come across the road without some money. And so it's either the body program or the federal grant program, maybe, and so.
It can be worse than that. It can actually be on that same side of the road and not be included.
And so that's why we still, the other thing too, I know folks probably don't know, we still have body money. We do have to allocate, we have $20 million in funding through body, and so there may be a way to accelerate some communities if they're smaller. But again, we're trying to prioritize BEAD first, and then, because BEAD does have a lot of rules, and some providers, especially smaller ones, will struggle with a lot of those requirements. And so will we use body to do the houses that are in between the ones that are already built out? And so we'll figure out that strategy once we go through BEAD.
Well, one of the things Verizon wanted to, they still want to come in and do the unserved and the ones that's left out. And they applied for body, but not denied.
Okay.
But, so they're going back to BEAD.
So let me ask a question before I've got you and then I've got you back there. Everybody in this room that's representing a county, you all have broadband projects started? Everybody?
No.
Okay, so who
Well,
said
yes,
no?
we do. Carol,
Carol?
Yes, Carol's
Well, or-
Oakland County.
You do or you don't?
They don't.
we do.
You do have a project now?
Yeah, with
Okay,
partners.
so everybody in the room in your counties, you have something going on. Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal because just a year ago, even, there were people in these rooms that still hadn't gotten projects done. So that's a big improvement. So I've got you in the back, and then you. So let's.
Yeah, I have two questions on that. Is how does your office measure the effectiveness of the providers during the contract period? And then the second question is as a board of supervisor, how can I best improve their effectiveness?
So for us, we actually, every provider that builds out provides a monthly report, which is how that dashboard I shared earlier, and I can pull up your county if you want. I know you all have a project. And so they do monthly reports. We also do site visits. We actually are in the middle of site visits right now, visiting every single project. We typically try to visit them at least twice a year. Sometimes, in some cases, the Planning District Commission is the grantee as opposed to a county. And so the Planning District Commission often has a staff dedicated specifically to that project. I'm going to look at Christine, who is with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. I don't know, God bless Christine and her team. They have 13 county administrators to wrangle to keep up to speed on their project status, and they do a darn good job of keeping those 13. I've been on a call with all 13 of the county administrators. Again, God bless her, pray for her. But so we do have boots on the ground to help monitor the projects, and the PDCs serve that role when they're the actual applicant. The other thing is when a project is completed, they have to do speed tests. And so we also make sure that not only that the fiber is in the ground, if they're doing a fiber or they're doing aerial, that the fiber is actually there. Then we also make sure that they test, and so every provider every month has to provide something called QA/QC, quality assurance and quality control. And so it's very much, I look at broadband like a traditional water sewer project. In the same way you would look at someone putting water lines in the ground, is the same way we look at how fiber goes in the ground. For body, we have typically, I say the county's the middleman, right between us and the ISP. With BEAD, we will be out there literally monitoring, just as if we were a general contractor. And we're actually looking to bring on a company to help us do that because we can't be everywhere all over the state. We do have staff that are based in Hampton Roads and based in Southwest Virginia who are able to get to communities a lot quicker than those of us in Richmond. And so we do try to use that as a way to check the effectiveness of the project. Also, we all know, I worked in local government for 7 years. The residents will let you know. They will let you know if it's not getting there fast enough. We filled a lot of those emails and calls on behalf of a lot of people. They're like, okay, I know they're here, but where are they at? Also, as a county administrator or a board of supervisors member, making sure you can get the information by your magistrate. That's one of the things I always say. Try to find out what's going on if you're a board of supervisors member. Ask for a map of your district where all those locations that are in a current body project is and where BEAD will go, so that you can also have those conversations with your neighbors about expectations. Everyone wants broadband yesterday. That's something we're not going to overcome just because of what happened with the pandemic. And so to me, being able to get more localized data from our office, we have that data. We can share that information. is another way. And then also the internet providers always are willing to come talk to a board of supervisors. They go to town hall meetings all the time. I know it's hard because everyone wants it today. But then the second question was, what can you all do?
Yeah, as a board of supervisors, but we do have some very valuable providers, one group. And it's just, I can't get light in the eyes of all. So what?
Have a conversation with us. We have a relationship with a lot of providers. I will tell you, I'll give a great example, and I hope no one from Frontier's here. So Chris McCartney, he's the county administrator in Giles County. Frontier is not based in Virginia. I think it's Frontier. Is it Frontier? Altice. No, it's Altice. I'm picking on Altice today. And so, Chris McCartney, Giles County was not successful for multiple rounds of body. The last round of body, Giles County was successful, and part of it was Chris McCartney and I sat in front of this map, actually at PIMTEL's headquarters. They have a grant now in partnership with PIMTEL, Timber Telephone. And we typed in addresses. I jokingly said Chris McCartney could give me an address of anyone that's claiming to have broadband, because he pulls up that federal map, he types in addresses, and they're claiming to be served. And so he knows they're not. And so Giles County literally knocked on every door in what was, and I'm picking on Altice, Altice's claimed served locations, and he got folks to take speed tests, folks to sign affidavits, and that's how they were successful to challenge, because when we do a body project, we put it on the website, the provider who claims to serve there says, well, I served there, just trust me, I did. And then we let the counties rebut. Well, that county knocked on doors and got people to sign affidavits. Kuchenbuch County did the same thing one year, and they had residents take speed tests and provided all that data to us to show that, yeah, what they're telling the federal government is incorrect. Here's the proof. These are real live people that we've worked through. And so I would say reach out to us. We do a lot of technical assistance. Again, we're not trying to put companies out of business, but our job is to make sure everyone is served. And so if everyone is not served, that does us no good. Because the next thing we want to have to figure out is, as new homes are being built, not us, because I'm going to at some point retire, y'all. And so at some point, we're still going to continue to grow the communities. And how will folks get broadband? Well, the good thing is that most often we got infrastructure now in those communities. How do you get them to the front door, even the new homes that are currently under construction? Because those are actually not eligible for the federal FCC programs like CAF2 and RDOF. I think they have to go to like 95%. And so for BEAD, we're requiring that providers submit bids on at least 95% of the addresses in a zip code area. If they go up to 100%, they get all the points. If they don't do 100%, they get less points. And so we're trying to incentivize providers moving out to every location that's on our BEAD map.
All right, I had you in the back.
All the way in the back?
No, not yet. Yeah,
Yes,
we'll
go
do
ahead.
my first one, and then you, and then you with the glasses. Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Holmes, I'm with Caroline County. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much. We got grants last year. They're not quite done. They won't be done until the end of next year.
Yes.
Just a suggestion, I just tried to pull this map up on my mobile device. It didn't work.
Yeah, something is going on with the map.
So, but I mean, the website is not optimized for mobile devices. So when you do the, correction, if you could do that, because that's how folks are going to check. So
Yes.
do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jody Early, Carroll County Supervisor, we've spoken, and not to point fingers at anyone, but I do want to bring up that Carroll County is right next to Floyd, totally built out. We're in the same sort of condition as Patrick County, which is also a bordering county. We've applied 3 years in a row to VDHCD, gotten zero. Under advice of DHCD, we changed the way that we applied for every bit of the money we needed, but that was too much, so we got nothing. Could you put Carol up there?
Sure.
Please.
So while you're talking, and to those of you who don't know, Floyd County has, similar to Scott County, telephone cooperative. And Floyd County had telephone service probably half a century before most of Floyd County had electricity. Just comprehend that for a moment. So you were able to talk on a telephone before you could turn on a light in many homes in Floyd County.
So anyway, I'll wrap up just saying that I know help is on the way with the BEAD money, but it's 2 years down the road, and we've already been through this for 3 years. So, our ability to attract businesses in Carroll County has been stagnant for it'll be over 5 years before we get internet throughout the county. So I just hope that we can get some help and get some BEAD money and get going in Carroll County.
I'm gonna tell Joe, we might wanna figure out what y'all's VACO agenda's gonna be, because I mean, body's still there,
Yeah.
everyone's, but to your point, Carroll County's body application is what, $23 million?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the ask is 23, we have $47 million available. And so as Evan, who's the former chief broadband advisor, would say the math was not mathing. And so we were like, okay, we've got to fund projects. And so body's still there. Of course, there's not enough money to do Carroll, and so Carroll will benefit from BEAD. And so I think we can also, I know you all have an ARC grant, so there may be a way to even look at ARC as a resource in between the time, because that's it's a year.
Right.
We sat on your ARC grant because we hope we got gotten body.
And Citizens got Community Connect money, which are coming in from
Yes.
Floyd and Carroll County. We're appreciative of that. The ARC grant was small, and Zytel's gonna start working on that. And hopefully with the BEAD money, we get the entire
Yes.
county. But we've got over 10,500 homes and businesses that have no service in Carroll County. And in 2024, that's ridiculous.
You know, a quick follow-up to that. Have you had an ISP approach you about doing a letter of support for a BEAD?
Yes, and we have done one for Zytel.
Okay, that's good to know.
Jeff Slade in Augusta County Board of Supervisors. Now, I don't know if that question's for you or for Jimmy over here. But he's going to think I'm putting him on the spot, and I am a little bit. 3 years ago, we entered into the 7-county, right up the valley. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? You're shaking your head already.
Yes. Go ahead.
3 years
Answer the
ago.
question.
I think all of our money's gone. I think our financial guru the other day said they sent the last payment in. It's been 3 years. I don't think there's an inch of fiber been put in that county. Everybody keeps talking about all this make-ready work. Well, it was my understanding, at least on the Dominion part of it, is pretty much ready. Well, if you've got areas ready, why don't we start hanging some fiber?
So we are in Augusta starting in December.
Hanging fiber.
Yep. Your money is not gone.
It
It's
is
with
not, at least on my books, it's not.
it's with the planning district.
Well, let me tell you, buddy,
We don't have it
when
until.
it ain't in our account, in my term, it's gone. Okay?
Understood.
Okay.
It has not been spent.
Actually, I can show you.
Actually, yeah, are you sure you haven't pulled 1.7 of it out of there already? Some of it's been spent and nobody told us.
The first of 3 milestones, which was the pre-construction activities, was earned under the contract. It was a pretty small portion of it. The rest is sitting with the fiscal agent, who is the planning district commission.
Got that. Okay, but I'm just saying, Jimmy, the knee-jerk reaction is it ain't been spent. That's the first quick answer to move on with the conversation. The truth of it is it has been spent. Some of it has been spent. But we don't have anything. My district in that county is the most underserved area in that county. We got nothing out of it in there. The 4 years I was on the board, we had 4 VADI grants. 3 of them were given to one provider who went right outside of Stanton and cherry-picked. And I got nothing. We thought this thing was going to start getting us off the bubble.
So you thought if you went in and did a
If
PDC, how many counties did you say? 7 cities, 2?
I was saying 7 counties.
7 counties.
But my question here is to either one of you, and Jimmy, I'll just tell you, I've been wanting to ask these questions since August, and I've been reaching out since August to get one of you all to come in there and live in flesh and answer some questions for us at a staff session, not send some communication back to Jennifer. I want y'all in there. Can you make that happen?
Yes, actually, Jennifer told us a week or 2 ago.
Well, it should have been about a month or 2 ago.
Mhm.
That's when I started asking.
Okay, this probably
And-
maybe this could be an
All,
off.
all I'm saying is, this
Yeah,
where I'm going, this thing's been about BEAD. And Jimmy, you have to tell them, you stood right in front of us, and you told us for the amount of money we were gonna put into this thing, that included all unserved households in our county, all unserved. For our first time we're gonna pay. Now we're talking about another complete wave of money coming to get unserved people. But folks, we bought a deal that said we were going to get served. What's happened to that deal?
As
What's
I said,
happened to that?
And so I pulled up the project as you see. no more than 30% of the money has actually been spent on our side, or at least combined
Well,
with the second county.
I understand,
So
no more
we're
than
very
30,
mindful about
but
that.
30 is a far cry from none.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, we bought into a plan of joining counties to do this in a joint way to make a huge difference for our county in that valley for this amount of money. And we bought in, we spent it, or it's gone. Why does BEAD mean anything to us? We had a price that was supposed to give us service.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You're gonna be in Augusta in December. What about the other 6 counties that are there? Have they been also, has wire been strung through those counties?
No, we have not started.
So you haven't started stringing the wire, so that's the key here. I think that this is definitely a reason for concern, obviously, for Augusta and the other 6 counties that it's a part of. It's something that maybe after the session, you two can work out some way.
I understand that,
Because there
ma'am.
are other folks.
But the focus has been on BEAD.
Yes.
I wanted to let you know, we have an agreement that said we shouldn't need no BEAD. We got a price that says we're supposed to get service for this much. And all we keep hearing about is BEAD. What happened to our original deal?
From VADI. Well, that's what,
From all points.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
VADI. That's VADI.
That's my question. What happened to the first price and the first agreement? Seems like everybody forgot about that. Now they're waiting on another wave of money. No, our money's already there. Where's our first deal?
Well, I will tell you, no one's forgot about that, because if we don't spend the money by December 31st, 2026,
It's gone.
the federal government's gonna take back the money.
Well, by
So-
golly, that's really what is raising the hair on the back of our neck. The clock's ticking, and we don't have 1 inch of anything hung in that county. Not 1 inch.
Okay.
And so I would say that, one, having a conversation with Jimmy and his company, because they're here, but then also I think it's important for those communities that have had body projects. How many people in here have a body project? How many people in here have a body project that had delays?
That delays.
Delays. How many counties did not have a delay on a body project at all? A few. And so maybe we can have a conversation at why those counties were able to get their projects done according to their schedule.
And it sounds to
And
me,
then, while
sounds
others
to
had
me-
delays. I know Make Ready has been huge. Like, if anyone had Make Ready, which I know Steve is gonna raise his hand really high. And if John Putney was here from Bedford, he'd raise his hand really high. And so I know Make Ready has been an issue, which is why was a budget amendment to put money to help defray some of the costs. 'Cause
It's been huge, and Make Ready has been slow, but when I have constituents tell me that a Timmons Group car sat at one phone pole for a day and a half on Bailey Road and never moved, ain't no wonder it's slow.
okay, yeah, you repeat that.
Cheryl Colors, Warren County, and we are part
sorry,
of
What
that-
county?
Warren County.
Warren
Warren.
County, yes.
And we're part of that, group of
7
counties. Yes. And my concern is, I guess my understanding was much like yours, and that we were gonna deploy in multiple counties and, along instead of start with Augusta and kind of work your way down the road. But
That's Jimmy's bill, that's his schedule, that's what he told y'all.
I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Because we don't determine how they build. We are not experts in how they build their
Right.
counties.
But my concern is, I thought they were already stringing in Augusta a year or so now, and so where is that going to put us? You say VADI runs out December of '26. If he's not done, and if our county's not done, we put the money into a contract, it's being held there and incremented out, so are we good or are we gonna lose it?
So anyone that's in a current body project, if you're with a PDC, I don't know how to count. Some counties, and Christine, I'd ask you, did your counties give you the money, or I think your counties are individually giving y'all the money as y'all pay the bills. So some PDCs don't take the cash in advance from their counties. They actually get an invoice in from the partner, and then they send it to the counties, and they all 13 of them cut a check to the PDC, and then the PDC, is that what they're doing for y'all? Okay. And so each county has had a different process in how they engage their planning district. And so based on what I hear, you all might have front-loaded your money to Northern Shenandoah PDC.
It's
And then they
at the
pay
regional
bills. And so,
commission.
again, that's how each PDC or counties have decided how they wanted to do that. not sure why the 13 counties in TJPDC, I think I know because I was on a call with them, they wanted to have strings tied to their money, and so there are performance measures that are tied to their money before they release their money to the PDC. And so each one developed their contractual relationship with their ISP differently. And so one thing I would say is if there are concerns, definitely reach out to our office. Like I said, we know what's going on. But I will say, and I'm just, and a lot of y'all don't know me, but I know a good chunk of this room knows me. There were letters sent to every single county this year about your project may be at risk, your project may be low risk, and here are your options. The option was, do you want to get rid of the body project altogether and wait till BEAD? Well, most folks said no. The other option was, well, do you want to rescope it and take some locations out because maybe Make Ready became way more expensive and way more problematic. So do you want to focus on a particular area of your county and then we make sure the locations go into BEAD? That was the second option. And the other option, honestly, was do you want to change your ISP? You can change your ISP. I can tell you not a county took advantage of that. Not a one county that had a body project took advantage of any of that. And I will tell you that the reason that was put in place, and it's in budget language, was because counties were complaining to state legislators about the body projects not moving. And then they put in the budget language all these options for counties to really basically try to figure out how to make the project go faster. And none of the counties took advantage. And so what I would say is that train has already left the station in that case. Because you heard me put up the BEAD map earlier. If you're not on that map, and you didn't rescope your body project, you're not going to be in BEAD. And so that was the urgency around those conversations. And so, one, I think we need to probably have a conversation with the PDC, Northern Shenandoah, and all points. I don't know if you want to do it here, Jimmy and Tom, that's up to y'all. But it'd be really nice also maybe have our project manager and our program manager as part of that conversation so they all can share with you all the protections we have in place when it comes to body projects. We just don't cut a check and go, hey, go build what you want to do. We literally, that's why on this dashboard you will see, it may seem to you your money's gone, but your money, at least on the state side and the local side, not even 30% or 20% of the money's been expended. And this is as of the month of September. And so maybe what's being reported back to you all may be different than what we're currently seeing. And so we can come out and have a conversation with y'all as individual counties to share how it's going, or we can have a combined meeting as well. But I would say definitely talk to Jimmy and his staff about what's going on.
I'll get with him, though. You're right. The letter was dated in June, and I got my hands on it Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and it showed where our project has gone into a new risk zone. They're not meeting their requirements. But I got it Wednesday night at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and I do believe that we have a solution here that maybe you all can work. Jimmy, hate to put you on the spot here, but maybe, you're sitting in the room, and project managers from DHCD can work with you. Yes, sir, you had a question?
In Hanover County, we have a project with all points to it. The residents don't care about the make-ready stuff. They don't care about any of this. The win-me is the answer. I will tell you, though, the make-ready process, trying to educate people on it, and even our board members and residents that are very close to these projects, has been critical. I don't think any of us thought that we're 12 months behind. We promised residents connections about this time, and we're behind. The whole explanation of why means nothing, and the partnership. But I will tell you, some of the issues, I don't hold all points accountable all the time, and we're not contract managing a grant obligation on our end. I hold my staff accountable. I hope we have meetings with all points, sometimes twice a month or every other, at least once a month. We have things in place, dashboards we're following, not because I'm waiting for all points to provide me something, but we put processes in place to manage a contract. And so contract management is a little bit two-way. I share your frustrations, by the way. The other piece, the BEAD piece, and I think some of our residents heard all were going to be connected, and we made a commitment to all. It was never going to be all. There was going to be streets that didn't participate in surveys. There were going to be, the speed requirements changed from the time we submitted the VDHCD grant till now, and that made more homes eligible that weren't eligible before. So there were reasons why not all would have been served, but you need to understand it to be able to explain that to your residents. BEAD is helping us fill those gaps as we move forward. We have about 5% of Hanover that didn't get covered in our VDHCD grant. But it's on I will tell you, it's a lift. I have 2 full-time staff working to make sure we're working with this and addressing the constituents' concerns. The project management side is critical regardless of who your third-party vendor is.
With all due respect, myself and Ms. Carter asked that question 3 times in the first meeting to specify all, and the answer never was maybe, it was always yes. That's what we heard.
I think one of the things we did early, we created a broadband authority. That handled all the management stuff, all the negotiations and all of that. And they stayed on top. That was their primary focus in life, was broadband. And that helped the staff a whole lot, helped the supervisor a whole lot.
You know, but at the same time, that's an excellent idea, but I can imagine for the 7 in the northern Shenandoah that, you know, here you figured you had your PDC working for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a matter of, it's communications. And I think that that's what we're talking about here in the room. It's frustrating, and, you know, citizens don't understand. Not to take up sides for Jimmy, but subcontracting work that is critical to the actual deployment of much of this project across the country is running into just not having to find crews that are capable of doing this work. It's not just, you know, string a wire. It's also working with utilities and trying to work all that out. So it doesn't make anybody feel any better that when you sign something up a year ago and we're still not seeing a single wire in a county, but there are logistics that just are hard to sometimes grapple with. And you know, everybody thought coming out of the pandemic we were all going to have broadband by now, and it's a big commonwealth, and it's hard. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a change of the subject. I was intrigued. My locality doesn't have as much of an issue with the deployment. I'm really excited about the adoption of the program. Are there any case studies or applications that have been turned in specifically for that I could look to as to what some other localities are doing, particularly on the affordability
Yes,
side? I think that's important.
Yeah, and so I can, if you have a card with you or get me my number, I can share with you. Albemarle County, what county do you live?
James City.
Okay, so Albemarle County is typically the county I raise up as a great example. They have a full-time staffer whose whole job is to focus on broadband and broadband adoption. So I can share with you some best practices. They actually have like a regional group that meets once a month.
Yeah, I'm from Scott County. I'm board of supervisors. You know, we don't really have a problem with getting fiber strung up and anything like that, but we do have a problem with wireless coverage in our county. Can any of these funds be pushed towards that? It's becoming a real public safety.
So by wireless, are you talking about like more cellular versus fixed
Yes,
wireless
sorry.
broadband? And so there are conversations about that. That's one to the podium. There are conversations about that, particularly in a lot of states. And so what we're hearing is that NTI is in the process of trying to consider if cellular will be a use of non-deployment, not necessarily deployment. But we're still waiting for guidance from them on that, because other states have asked that same question. Because if we have if we're only using 1 billion of the 1.4 billion, what are some other options? And so I anticipate before the end of the year that we'll be able to share information on cellular, because I hear a lot from Senator Billion and who get killable, and definitely around public safety, especially with the hurricane.
Yeah,
Getting
and
Southwest Virginia.
I can get the internet at my house, right? I can set off the door.
And not have cell service.
No cell service.
Yeah, that's what came up in our
that-
meeting yesterday.
Yeah, that came up, and we've actually added it to our draft legislative program to include cellular facilities as part of what Baker's going to advocate for funding. So, yeah.
As telecommunications, because it's more than just broadband. You have a follow-up?
Just a question, and I appreciate the concern about the money spent, because our folks asked the same thing for the portion. My understanding of the money spent was documented money to pre-order equipment and have those kinds of things ready, and that justification was there. So let's say you changed ISPs, there should be an amount of money spent on a certain amount of equipment that money went to. I keep telling these guys, I need you to get passings done. I'd love to pay you. because that means our residents are getting service at that point. And so I think the money that has been spent is documented in what was purchased and those kinds of things. The rest of the money, I wish I could break them checks, because we're breaking ground literally next week on ours, and I don't want to be sitting on the money. I don't want to get into the 26 and worry about not finishing these projects. But I think we have the accountability to say, where did that money go and what's happening. I know we've not only used the dashboards you've seen, but we've created local reports and those kinds of things that we'd be glad to share, that has helped try to tell that story for those that are willing to listen to it. Other than that, they just, some folks will look at you and say, it hasn't been delivered, you haven't delivered as a representative of our government, and you're failing. And that's tough to hear, and it's frustrating. Telling them it's going to be here in 6 or 12 months anymore doesn't mean a lot until they can turn it on.
Well, our money has an expiration date on it, just like that lady. And we all knew it going in, but we were supposed to be done before that. My question is, if you ain't spending the money and you don't get it spent, we're going to be in the same boat. We're going to lose all of our funding. The deal was the work was supposed to be done. I'm glad you're spending the money. I wish you'd spend it all and we were done. I don't care if you spend the money. We want something to show for it.
Yeah, and I think the other issue is, as all of you are thinking about these things, and I know it's hard to think about when you still don't have a home connected, is to be thinking about the accessibility portion and the education portion, because even in a county like ours, there are still folks that don't know how to use the internet. They don't know. They don't have a Chromebook, let alone a personal computer. These are real issues. So I think it's something to be thinking about as well, even if you don't have a connection. It's an important connection, yes.
Just a shout out here to our public libraries across the Commonwealth.
Absolutely.
I started in libraries, I'm still in libraries, but I'm constantly scouting the work that they do and how many people we serve every day that cannot function with the computer.
Right.
The resources we lend out to folks willingly for free, here you go, take it home, and digital navigators and the difference that they will make as we move forward.
What county are you from?
Land.
Yeah. Any other questions? We've got about 3 more minutes.
Yeah. Tamara, Scott Simpson from Halifax. We've been real successful in using our PDC in Mecklenburg and Brunswick, and we've even gone outside of our PDC district to help areas. A lot of these projects, like the 22 project you have showing up there, it has an end date of middle of next year. The 23 project is middle of 26, and so any ARPA money that's committed to those on the county standpoint should already be contracted, and hopefully those contracts have teeth in them to make sure the ISP gets finished. My question is on the process for BEAD. Can you go back over the timeline that you all are going to be looking at applications? Because I think all of us are going to want to support multiple ISPs in our area, so we're going to need to know from board meeting standpoint, when do we go to our boards and ask for these letters of support and that type of thing.
So the application, we're hoping will open before the end of the year, and so they would close in March of next year. It's a 90-day application window, I think March or February, I have to go check, I'll let you know. But it is a 90-day window, and so the applicant has to get all the documentation, including the letters of support, as they're building out their application. And so I would say, if they haven't already contacted you to get a letter, they're going to be contacting you at least starting the early part of December through the first, probably almost quarter of next year to get the letters of support.
And my understanding is BEAD does not require any financial support from the
Only,
locality.
there's a 25% match requirement. If counties want to contribute to that 25% match requirement, that's up to them. It has to come from someone, and so most often it's going to come from the internet service provider.
And Scott, and for everybody else, Dr. Holmes' slides, we're going to make available posts to, if you wanted to go to that, and that's something you can share with your board.
Right.
I will say that one thing that's come up a couple of times, and I think just some folks still focus on body where they pick one partner and it's like you got married. Look at your options. You can give a letter to more than one provider. I've heard from providers that have called counties and the county said, nope, we're not gonna give you a letter because we don't wanna play favoritism. In any other ISP, that closure years. Those providers did not, I came from local government, they did not pay favorites when they were picking what counties they were gonna build on their own dime. So I'm telling y'all, if you can see yourself giving a letter to multiple providers, do that. I'm actually shocked when people call me and I'm like, well, can you call the county and tell me, find out why they only want to give a letter to X? And I'm like, well, I can't make them give you a letter, but I can go ask them, you know, is it something they think we said? Are they thinking body? Is it, they're thinking that, I don't know, if you guys sign agreements, maybe you sign an agreement that you would have an exclusive relationship with an ISP, I don't know. So I will say that as a county, you can give a letter of support for BEAD to multiple providers that want to come in for BEAD. It does not mean everyone's going to be successful, but it is 10 points in the application process. Just because you're the most cost efficient does not mean that they will be the winner of BEAD. And so sometimes a letter of support may help.
Well, this session always runs right up to the end minute. Would you have a comment or a question?
Yes, ma'am, I just wanted to say, I do appreciate all points. I don't want my frustration with timeline because we didn't have an authority. We formed the committee when I first got on the board. And my district is one of the hardest hit for no internet, no cell phone, no anything. And Jimmy and his group was the only people that would even talk to us. So, and I appreciate that very much. It's just, we're all taking a beating because it's a service we don't have. People want, when they heard it, it's like you said, we got an agreement and they thought we're gonna get it right away. So I didn't wanna leave here with a sort of note on that because I do appreciate you. But it is frustrating, and we talk about that. I know I'm the brown helmet, so.
I'll echo that. I don't, Jimmy, this ain't a me and you thing.
I
But
totally understand.
it's we had a deal, we're holding up our end, where are you guys?
Right. And we have fallen short, which I apologize for.
All right, we can take this off.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you all.